It started like any other late-night episode. Joe Rogan, his dimly lit studio, and the hum of quiet laughter between guests. But what came next would ignite a digital firestorm. The world didn't expect Rogan, a man known for his brutal honesty and skeptical mind, to utter words that would spiral into a conspiracy, one that now threatens to reshape how America views truth, grief, and power itself. He leaned forward, eyes narrowed. "We just found out that Charlie Kirk got shot," he said calmly, almost too calmly. "Look, I haven't seen anything that's confirmed." A pause. Silence thick enough to cut through the screen. And then a single phrase. "Murder for having a different opinion? Interesting." That was all it took. Millions paused. In Rogan's universe, one "interesting" could mean everything. A question, an accusation, or a quiet signal that something was terribly wrong. The death of Charlie Kirk, founder of Turning Point USA, had already sent shockwaves through the conservative world. But Rogan's voice carried it beyond politics. Suddenly, it wasn't just a tragedy. It was a puzzle. His tone was neutral, almost detached, but the undercurrent was unmistakable. "Something strange was going on," he murmured. He didn't accuse. He didn't need to. The audience could feel it, the suspicion breathing through every syllable.
Within hours, his comments spread like wildfire. Clips cut, captions rewritten, headlines rewritten again. Every outlet twisted his words in a different direction. But no matter how they framed it, the seed was planted. The story didn't make sense. And then came the deeper question. If the official story was clean, why did it feel so dirty? Rogan's audience wasn't just anyone. It was millions of thinkers, doubters, and wanderers, people tired of propaganda, drawn to the one man who dared to question everything. So when he hinted at inconsistencies, the missing camera angles, the rushed investigation, the perfect motive that appeared out of nowhere, the audience did what Rogan trained them to do. They investigated. The suspect reportedly brought a World War II artifact, no serial code, convenient. His laughter wasn't joy, it was disbelief. "You're telling me someone took apart a century-old gun and reassembled it in minutes?" he asked, his guest silent. Rogan shook his head, the smirk fading. "That doesn't add up." It wasn't what he said, it was what he didn't say. Because in Rogan's world, silence speaks louder than accusation. And that silence became the spark that ignited a storm. By the time the episode ended, Twitter had already divided into tribes. Some called Rogan a truth-teller. Others called him reckless. But everyone was talking. And then, as the dust began to settle, a new name started trending. Erica Kirk. She wasn't just Charlie's widow. She was now the new CEO of Turning Point USA. The timing was too perfect, the kind of coincidence Rogan's followers lived for. At 36, beautiful, composed, almost unnervingly calm, Erica became the symbol of a mystery Rogan had never intended to create. But now it was too late. The internet had crowned her the face of the unspoken question. Who really benefits when a voice like Charlie's is silenced? And just as the dust began to settle, another name slipped into the frame. Donald Trump. Rogan didn't mention him. He didn't have to. The audience did the math themselves. Trump had prayed for Charlie. He had comforted Erica. But what he whispered to her at the memorial, that moment captured in crystal clarity, felt like the continuation of a secret story. Rogan's words had cracked the glass. What poured out was something much darker, not a conspiracy, but a collective obsession. The kind that starts with doubt and ends with something much more dangerous.
What began as a single spark now burned like wildfire. Joe Rogan's quiet remark had become the nucleus of a national obsession, a digital inquisition dissecting every word, every clip, every gesture from anyone remotely connected to the tragedy. He hadn't accused anyone. He hadn't claimed to know the truth, but that didn't matter anymore, because when Rogan, the voice millions trusted, said, "This story doesn't make sense," the internet didn't hear skepticism. It heard permission to question everything. By morning, threads exploded across Reddit and X. Amateur sleuths turned night owls, cross-referencing videos, timestamps, and crowd angles from Charlie Kirk's final speech. They slowed frames to catch flashes of faces in the audience. They drew digital maps of where each person stood. And in every corner of that analysis, one pattern kept re-emerging. Erica Kirk in the spotlight. Donald Trump in the frame. Rogan watched the chaos unfold from his Austin studio. The tone on his next episode was different. No jokes, no smiles, just the low hum of reflection. "I don't know what's real anymore," he admitted. "But when details line up too neatly, you've got to wonder who's writing the script." The internet took those words as prophecy. Clips of Trump embracing Erica at the memorial spread across every platform. The moment when he leaned close to whisper something in her ear was looped, slowed, magnified. Some called it compassion, others called it choreography. To Rogan's listeners, it looked like theater, the kind of moment that feels genuine but tastes rehearsed. And while the nation speculated, Erica's silence became her loudest statement. She didn't defend herself, didn't deny, didn't explain. She simply reappeared, not as a widow in mourning, but as the new leader of her husband's empire. Black dress, steady voice, flawless composure. When she spoke of continuing Charlie's mission, it sounded less like grief and more like a campaign launch.
To Rogan, that was the turning point. "We're living in a time," he said slowly, "where tragedy can be repackaged as opportunity, where pain becomes politics." His tone carried both awe and disappointment. He wasn't condemning Erica or Trump or even the movement. He was condemning the machine. The media ecosystem that feeds on suspicion, amplifies emotion, and rewards spectacle over truth. But by then, his voice had already been weaponized. His podcast had become a courtroom where no one could defend themselves, and every silence was evidence. Commentators debated whether Rogan had crossed a line, not by lying, but by wondering out loud. Yet for his audience, that was his power. He didn't give them answers. He gave them doubt. And doubt, once released, is impossible to contain. As the story deepened, Rogan's tone softened. "I'm scared," he confessed one night. "Scared that we're turning real human pain into entertainment." His voice cracked, not for the cameras, but from something raw. When did tragedy become clickbait? But even that confession became another viral clip. Sympathy and outrage mixed together, and once again, the internet divided itself into tribes, believers and deniers, mourners and mockers, truth seekers and trolls. Meanwhile, Erica's image only grew larger. Every photo, every appearance beside Trump was scrutinized frame by frame. A smile became evidence. A nod became intent. And still, she said nothing. Rogan, watching from afar, realized the storm he had accidentally summoned wasn't just about Charlie Kirk anymore. It was about something bigger. Trust. The fragile currency of a society that no longer believes what it sees, yet believes every rumor that feels real enough. He leaned into the microphone one final time. "Maybe it's not about who's guilty," he whispered. "Maybe it's about who benefits when we stop caring what's true." The studio fell silent. The camera light blinked red.
And for the first time, Rogan didn't smile, didn't joke, didn't chase the next story. Because deep down, he knew this one would never end.